Customer experience at New Zealand Post is a new sort of division. It's responsible for all of the interactions that New Zealand Post has with its customers across all of its channels. So the sales and marketing teams, the online team, the contact centre, and also responsible for the experience you have when you walk into one of our stores. I've been in New Zealand Post now about 12 months, so it's a reasonably new role. Prior to that, I was in a subsidiary company, and that was where my involvement with Intellecta began. I ran sales and marketing for a software outsourcing and services business. And so we had a similar set of challenges to the ones in New Zealand Post. The ones in New Zealand Post is that much bigger. So when we took this role, the decision to move Intellecta in was sort of one of the first decisions we made, given the need to bring information out of lots of different systems to the front line at a point that could make a difference became sort of the core need that we're trying to achieve. So from our perspective, the critical thing that we're trying to get a really good handle on is our return on sales equation. What Intellecta really helps us with is the lead measures. So what is the activity at the front end of the pipeline? How can we see, based on what's happening in the market, what might be coming later? And so that's really the primary driver from my perspective. Prior to Intellecta, we had no way of doing that, despite numerous sort of conversations with salespeople that if they could please update the CRM, but they don't. And so this is now the first time that we're really getting that sense of, okay, we know what's actually happening in the market. We didn't really think that there were many alternatives to the way Intellecta thinks about the business problem. Depending on the way you look at the business problem, there are quite a few alternatives. I mean, we have as I mentioned, a number of CRMs, but we obviously have one core CRM. They'd solve the problem by putting more things into the CRM. We've got a data warehouse, data analytics team that they would solve the problem by putting all the data into the data warehouse. Intellecta was really the only one that sort of said, look, we can work with all of those things. You don't have to sort of boil the ocean. We'll just get the information to the right people at the right time. What we know from our previous deployment, as I mentioned inside the subsidiary company, is we saw a shortening of the sales cycle. We enabled the salespeople to make decisions around what were good and bad deals earlier on in the sales process. So we could see where they were wasting effort. So we saw about a third reduction in the sales process, which was really effective for us. As I mentioned, we just got much more depth about what was happening at a return on sales level. So we were able to see salespeople spending effort on the wrong things, let alone the wrong deals. They were fundamentally involved in the wrong types of conversations. And we've been able to more clearly demarc what we call selling conversations, which are involved in proactive selling, and what we're calling supply conversations, which are how are we helping the customers with some sort of supply conversation. And the reason that's important is because we want to move the supply conversations to different channels. So for us, this has enabled us to see the number and type of those sort of activities at a front line to then make those trade-off decisions around where they go. So that's probably been the biggest benefit. And given the nature of the way the Intellecta system fits into their daily lives, we're getting much more clarity about what's really happening in deals, as opposed to what used to happen, which is they'd update their CRM once a month and tell us what they thought we wanted to hear. So we're really getting a much better line of sight already, in a short period of time, to what's actually going on at a quality of pipeline level. And the nature of knowing that stuff is correct at the push of a button is quite comforting for guys in my position, because the rest of the organisation hangs on the information. Well, I mean, I've been around sort of sales and marketing for a few years, and I haven't seen anything that does what Intellecta does as well as it does it. And the fact that I've been able to deploy it twice, it deploys on time, on budget. It is actually as easy as they say it is, which I needed to be convinced at the start. I had to do a pilot. I have no hesitation really, I think, recommending them. In fact, it's, as I said, it's the first thing that we did when we came in. I'm constantly looking at new ways to bring more things into it. And I consider, Greg and the Intellecta team as sort of core business partners. So, I guess that's probably saying a lot in the scheme of things.
Business Apps by Intellecta.